Welcome back to another Fantasy EFL GAMEWEEK preview video, and it's time to talk about GameWeek 5. I'm having to start putting this video together on Monday, and obviously there's still Salford vs MK Dons to play. But we've got most of the information we need. I just can't give you my final rank for GameWeek 4 yet or anything, so sorry about that. If you do want to see that, then make sure to look out for my GameWeek 5 team selection video later this week. Okay, so before we get into detail on a review of last week, and then go through some data, I just want to explain this week for anyone that doesn't know. So we're now about to go into the first international break of the season. So what that means is that there is no championship games on at all, as those teams are more likely to have players being called up for their international teams. But teams in League 1 and League 2 can also request for their games to be postponed if they have, I think it's 3 players to be called up for their international teams. So basically what that means for Fantasy EFL and our teams is that there are a lot less games to choose players from. And so we really need to choose carefully on the players we're selecting. So as it stands, the only games that are going ahead from League 1 are Barnsley versus Bristol Rovers, Charlton versus Rotherham, and Wrexham versus Shrewsbury. So just the 3 games being played in League 1. And then down in League 2, there's a lot more games, with only Tranmere versus Wimbledon and Fleetwood versus Salford being postponed so far. I do think that's how it should stay, but I will keep an eye out for any changes in fixtures and let you know in later videos. Right, let's have a quick review of Game Week 4, and then we'll get into some stats and choices for Game Week 5. So in League 2, Gillingham beat Chesterfield 1-0 to be the only team to stay unbeaten so far this season. Both teams went down to 10 men in that game. Walsall, Barrow, Newport, Doncaster and Wimbledon all continued their great start to the season, getting their 3rd win of the season. Doncaster had the standout game there, beating Port Vale 3-2. Those teams now make up the top 6 alongside Notts County, who got a 2-1 away win at Swindon, which puts Swindon in the bottom 2 with Morecambe after their 1-0 home loss to Newport. That means Morecambe still have 0 points, 0 goals scored, and a goal difference of -4 after 4 games. Carlisle also continued to underperform with a 2-1 home loss to Tranmere. And then obviously there's still Salford vs MK Dons to play tonight, so I'm hoping for some Alex Gilby points for my team. In League 1, Stockport, Wrexham and Birmingham are the only teams still unbeaten. Quite impressive for 2 of the newly promoted sides to be the top 2 at the minute. And the only other side being Birmingham, who have spent 40 million on transfers in the window. I probably won't do a section on transfers today because there was obviously so many over the transfer deadline day that if you haven't seen them, I genuinely recommend just having a look online. We'll be here all night if I go through them all. But I have to mention Birmingham signing Stansfield for 15 million. It's a bit of a joke now, isn't it? Everyone was saying you can't buy yourself out of League 1 and stuff like that. But I think you probably can if you've got that kind of money. Not one single club could get anywhere near that. They've absolutely smashed League 1's transfer records, and to be fair, they've nearly smashed the highest in the Championship as well. It's just crazy. If they don't get promoted, not only is it going to be the most embarrassing season ever in the history of football, but FFP will surely bite them in the bum if they don't. Luckily for them, I can't see them not winning the league, but there's a lot of pressure on them now. Either way, what a ridiculous transfer window for Birmingham, leaving the rest of League 1 behind. They beat Wigan 2-1 at home, with one of their new signings, Wright, scoring a 91st minute winner. Stockport drew 1-1 away at Mansfield, while Wrexham won 2-0 away at Peterborough. Huddersfield and Charlton both lost for the first time this season. Huddersfield in the early kick-off against Rotherham. Not a great performance from them, but shafted by the ref in that game really to give Rotherham their first win of the season. Bolton continued to struggle with a 2-0 home loss to Exeter. That's one I really didn't expect this week. Bristol Rovers and Barnsley both continued their pretty decent starts to the campaign. Rovers with a 2-0 win over Cambridge. I told you their defence was solid. And then Barnsley with a 3-0 away win over Crawley. That's expected, but I'm starting to be very impressed by Barnsley, really. After Charlton's perfect start to the season, they were shocked by Reading, who beat them 2-0. And then Shrewsbury got their first win of the season, beating Leyton Orient 3-0, which leaves Orient as the only team without a point now in League 1. In the Championship, Burnley drew 1-1 in their derby game against Blackburn in the early kick-off. Maybe a sign of Burnley struggling to get used to losing quite a few of their players in the transfer window. Middlesbrough continued to look good, beating Cardiff 2-0, leaving them bottom of the league with just 1 point alongside Luton, who had a shocking start to the season. and they lost 2-1 at home to QPR on Friday night. Norwich won away at Coventry 1-0, and I really expected Coventry to have a better start to the season than they are. Just something to note there, and then Derby shocked Bristol City with a 3-0 win. Maybe Derby are better than we thought, and maybe Pride Park's going to become a kind of a fortress for them this season. Beating Middlesbrough and Bristol City are some very good results for them. Leeds and West Brom both won at home, so having a very good start to the season. Leeds with a 2-0 win over Hull, and West Brom beating Swansea 1-0. Sunderland are the only team with a perfect record so far, after their 3-1 away win at Portsmouth. I know Portsmouth are a newly promoted side, but Sunderland are looking quality, and they've got Plymouth after the international break too. Preston's manager bounce didn't last long as they lost 3-1 away at Oxford. Oxford are joining Derby in that surprisingly good group of teams. And then finally Millwall beat Sheffield Wednesday 3-0, so maybe Wednesday just shit again and that first game of the season was just them giving the fans some false hope. Okay, so that's all the important results from Game Week 4. A lot of the players I mentioned in last week's preview video got really good points, including Eliza Mayenda, Bryant Belongo, Joseph from Leeds, and then obviously there's still Alex Gilby to play tonight, so we'll see how he gets on. But hopefully that's kind of showing you that the research is working. Hopefully my tips have helped you guys to get some more points, because ultimately that's what makes me want to make these videos. I do put even more of my thoughts on Twitter, so if you're crazy and the YouTube videos aren't enough of me for you, then please go and follow me over on Twitter at the FPL Terrier. But if not, then just keep an eye out for my Game Week 5 team selection later this week. At this point of the preview video, I'd usually go through injuries, suspensions and transfer news, but I'm not going to do one this week because I just don't think it's worth it with all the postponements. Like I said earlier, if you want to see the transfers from deadline day, you'll be able to find that online, but it's not worth me going through all of them. And in terms of injuries and suspensions, so much can change over the international break, and some of the suspensions won't be used until Game Week 6. So instead of going through them all, I'll try and mention anything important as I go through target teams and players for anyone that would actually be playing in Game Week 5. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Okay, so let's have a look at teams to target for Game Week 5 now. There's obviously less to choose from, so hopefully these sections will be a bit shorter this week and I won't keep you for half an hour like last week. So my favourite team to target this week is Wrexham. They play at home to Shrewsbury in Game Week 5. And I know Shrewsbury have just got their first win of the season, and it was a 3-0 win, but it was a bottom of the table scrap really, with both teams sitting on 0 points before the game. I don't see Shrewsbury gaining any real form or momentum from that game specifically. And with the amount of goals Wrexham are scoring, I think Shrewsbury playing away makes it a fixture to target. Wrexham are averaging 2 goals per game and only conceding 0.5. They are slightly overperforming their data, as they only have an expected goals of 4.1 with 8 goals scored, but that's irrelevant if they're just putting away their chances. Wrexham were really good at home in League 2, and it looks like it could be similar in League 1, with 2 wins from 2 and a +4 goal difference just in home games so far. The only thing is that they don't really have what we'd describe as a talisman in terms of goal scoring. The goals are being quite spread out, so it's hard to decide which player to choose, and I'll go through that in a sec in the players section. With the other 2 League 1 games, what I'd expect is the 2 home teams to win, so Barnsley to beat Bristol Rovers and Charlton to beat Rotherham. But I don't think there's not as big of a difference in quality as the Wrexham-Shrewsbury game. I think Charlton are the stronger of the 2, but I could still see Rotherham scoring in that game. And then Bristol Rovers they've been good so far and their defence is looking solid, so I'd put Barnsley 3rd on that list. In League 2, I like Barrow as a team to target against Swindon. Barrow have had a good start to the season, only losing their away game at Carlisle. They have a goal difference of +5 already, and coming up against a Swindon side that have conceded 7 already. And they haven't won yet this season, so I'm really expecting a home win for Barrow in Game Week 5. Notts County are a team I'm really looking at targeting this week, as they play at home to Accrington. Accrington have conceded 11 goals so far this season, and also haven't won a game yet, whereas Notts County have scored 8 goals and haven't lost. Again, with it being a home game for Notts County, I'm really expecting a home win here. Other teams I like, but I won't go in depth on, are Bradford against Carlisle and Crewe at home to Morecambe. I do also like the Chesterfield versus Grimsby game, not for a specific team to choose as one of the 2 fixture choices, but just I'm expecting to see a lot of goals in that game. I've put the teams I think we should be targeting in my preferred order on screen, so let me know if you agree with my order, and if you'll be choosing any of those teams for your Game Week 5 teams. Let's move on to specific players to target for Game Week 5 of Fantasy EFL. And I'm starting off with a player I also mentioned last week. It didn't work out for us as he only ended Game Week 4 on 3 points, but I think he's got another good fixture this week, and he's just an exciting player creating so many chances, and that player is Jack Payne, who is only 1.5% selected. He's scored 31 points so far at this season in Fantasy EFL, and even in a 1-0 home loss against Harrogate, he made 6 key passes, and 6 in one game is so good. It's clearly just his teammates not finishing his chances. They created 1.95 XG and didn't score a goal, with Jack Payne getting 0.57 expected assists. Colchester drew 1-1 away at Accrington last week, and although I expected better, you can never really be sure on an away game. However, this week they're back at home to Bromley. Bromley lost 2-1 at home to Crewe in Game Week 4, and so it's looking like that early good run of form hasn't lasted long. So now they've had 2 losses in 2 games, and Bromley are a team I expect to be a lot worse away from home throughout the season. So I really like Jack Payne's chances of getting points in this game. With his XG per 90 at 0.26, combined with his XA per 90 of 0.29, and creating at least 3 chances per 90, with a pass accuracy of 84%, his stats look so good. From Notts County, I've got Dan Crowley and Jody Jones as players to target. And I'm not going to speak about them for long, as they're pretty self-explanatory. Crowley's got 2 goals and 1 assist so far this season, and Jody Jones has got 2 goals and 3 assists so far this season. They're both playing in a Notts County side that are scoring a lot of goals, and in Game Week 5 they play against Accrington, who have conceded the joint most goals in the entire Football League so far. So like I said, self-explanatory. I mentioned Wrexham being a team to target, but I said it was difficult to decide which Wrexham player to go for. But I think Elliot Lee is my favourite option. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist so far this season. He's nailed in the Wrexham side, and last season he got 16 goals and 6 assists. Now I know it's a league above now, but Wrexham have started so well there's no reason to suggest he can't carry on in the same manner. Wrexham play against Shrewsbury, who before that 3-0 win over Leyton Orient looked an extremely weak side, and with Wrexham being their home side I expect them to score goals in this match. I just have to hope that Elliot Lee is involved in them. If you're looking for a Barnsley player this week, I'd suggest Adam Phillips, who scored 3 goals and got 1 assist so far this season. He's putting up data of 0.56 XG per 90, with 0.19 expected assists per 92. Obviously it's easy to recommend someone that's just scored 2 goals last week, but in a week where there isn't many options, these are the kind of players that need to be pointed out. Barnsley play against the Bristol Rovers side, who I have been raving about their defence. But Barnsley are also a stronger side than the likes of Cambridge, Northampton, and even Rotherham, who Bristol Rovers have kept a clean sheet against. I say that out of the midfielders I've chosen, that Phillips is probably the weakest option, but he could still be a really good choice for Game Week 5. I think Charlton have one of the best chances at a clean sheet, being at home to Rotherham this week, and Lloyd Jones is the standout defender choice. He scored in Game Week 1 in a 1-0 win over Wigan, and since then Charlton have kept another 2 clean sheets, so 3 already this season. Yes, they lost 2-0 to Reading last week, but that was an away fixture, and Reading haven't looked too bad so far this season, so now they're back at home against a Rotherham side that have only scored 2 goals so far, and one of them was being a penalty. I think Charlton have got a good chance of a clean sheet, so I do like Lloyd Jones. I also like Barrow's chances of a clean sheet, and they've only conceded 1 goal so far this season. Neo Eccleston is a player I really like, and I've actually seen him play quite a bit, as he's on loan from Huddersfield. He's playing right back for Barrow, and Ben Jackson, who also joined from Huddersfield in the transfer window, is playing at left back. And they actually combined for the goal that gave Barrow a 1-0 win over Harrogate in Game Week 4. One thing I can tell you about Eccleston is that he's absolutely rapid. And so being at home to Swindon in Game Week 5, who have had a bad start to the season, I'm excited to see how Eccleston does in that game, combined with the clean sheet potential. Annoyingly, I can't tell you what these players' ownerships are at, as in the Fantasy EFL app, it doesn't let you look at other players while a game week is live. Something I hope they implement into the app sooner rather than later, as obviously I'm recording this video before the MK Dons game, the game week's still live so I can't check. Either way, I expect his ownership to be very low, so he could be a really good differential for Game Week 5. Finally is just a goalkeeper I'm looking at for Game Week 5. I've not decided which one to go for my team selection yet, but Philip Marschall of Crewe is a player I'm keeping an eye on. I know Crewe have conceded 7 goals so far already, but 5 of them were in one game against Chesterfield. So maybe that was just a one-off bad game for them? I don't know, this is why I'm not 100% sure on him. But I am keeping an eye on him, and apart from that, the stats aren't bad. He kept a clean sheet in their game against Swindon in a 0-0 draw, and he's actually made 13 saves so far this season, with a save percentage of 65%. So it's probably not the best stats out there, but it's certainly not bad, and in a week where a lot of teams aren't playing, he could be a good shout. Crewe play at home to Morecambe in Game Week 5, and like we've already mentioned, Morecambe haven't scored a goal yet this season. The question is, when will they get that first goal? And they'll obviously be wanting it sooner rather than later. No team just rolls over in these leagues, so it's never a guarantee. But I just think Crewe have another good chance at a clean sheet, and if Marschall has to make a few saves in there, then that's just a bonus. So there we are, that's everything you need to know before picking your teams for Game Week 5. I know there's been less to go through in this video, but that's just what it's like when there's less games on. Hopefully you still found it useful and interesting, and if there are any questions I haven't answered that you have, then please drop them in the comments down below and I'll respond to all of them. If you have made it this far into the video, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more of the same coming throughout the season, and I'll see you in the next one.